Hello and welcome. This is NTA Tuesday Live, and I'm Cyril Stover. Tonight, the program will continue to unveil the success stories of more sectors under the assessment of 1 year of the Bola Ahmed Tinubu presidency. And this time around, infrastructure, resetting the economy, and building resilience among Nigerians through the renewed hope agenda will take center stage. Now, to push the conversation, let's get to see this background report by Haman Jabani.
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu wishes to use this medium to continue to assure Nigerians that this government will not relent in its efforts until all strategic interventions are deployed efficiently and effectively, and until every household is positively impacted.
These highlights of policy and economic direction by the then essay to President Tinubu set the government in motion towards the actualization of its hope and plans to change the fortune of Nigeria for good.
You can assess a government in 1 year having come after 24 years of damage. When there is discontent in this land, when there is disaffection everywhere, people have already disquieted quite. Now, with the renewed hope, Tinubu is trying to quiet the disquiet.
The agricultural sector was one of the first sectors to receive presidential attention with the declaration of emergency on food security, which reflected the administration's determination to address pressing issues that directly affect the well-being of citizens, with increase in supply of subsidized fertilizer, supply of farm inputs such as seedlings and farm implements, expansion of investment in irrigation to increase food production, establishment of skill acquisition center by Niseni, strengthening of MSMEs. The federal government, under the Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security, flagged up the cultivation of dry season stable crops. The project fall under Agricultural Development Growth Scheme and Agro-Pack through the supply of $134 million loan facility from the African Development Bank.
The first 1 year should be looked upon as a learning process of what is happening and some efforts at achieving those results. But the coming year should be a year of implementation.
Assuming office with clear mandate to drive the transformation of Africa's largest economy, the government ushering a new era of renewed hope saw the removal of fuel subsidy as a decisive step towards a more sustainable economic future. Within the first year in office, access to creative program for startups, MSMEs, providing 50 million naira in conditional grant to 1 million nano businesses nationwide was introduced. A new single-digit interest rate fund to provide 75 million naira to support manufacturing enterprise, 3 MTT program that aim to develop 3 million technical talents by 2025, in line with the presidential vision of making Nigeria a global hub for digital jobs. Abuja-Kaduna-Kano Highway is also getting attention. The bridge that links the mainland to Lagos Island is overhauled. The 700-kilometer Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway, which has been in the cooler for many years, has also been flagged off. President Tinubu described the project as a priority. There are also 30,000 kilometers of road that spread across the 6 geopolitical zones, a huge part of which undergoes rehabilitation and reconstruction. The Renew Hope Cities and Estates program, initiated by President Tinubu administration, aimed at bridging the housing gap and making home owners accessible to average Nigerians, was officially launched in February 2024.
From this site, granite seller we eat. From this site, water seller we make a living. From this site, nail sellers, carpenters, all those, roof makers, we make a living. Brick and mortar, we stand the test of time and bring a glory of Nigeria brighter than we met it.
in the oil and gas is to increase production and reform to attract international investment across the value chains, as higher production translates to greater investment, increased revenue and foreign exchange earning for the country with a more functional midstream and downstream sector. Achievement in the environment sector are mainly in policy, which began with the signing of MOU between the ministry and the government of Cameroon on the protection and conservation of their biodiversities and trans-border security. The Tinubu administration has made it clear that its priority is to renew Nigeria's hope, bring about prosperity and unity, transparent, effective, and visionary governance, providing the platform for refined national development for the betterment of the nation. Hamman Jabani.
All right, that report sets the tone for tonight's discussion. Let me introduce our guests. Welcome to this program, Khalil Halilu. He is Executive Vice Chairman, National Agency for Science and Engineering Infrastructure, NASENI. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Let me also welcome Abba Aliyu, Managing Director of Rural Electrification Agency. Thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you very much, Cyril, for having me.
Right. And we're also joined tonight by Oka Obono, Professor of Sociology and Population Studies at the University of Ibadan. He joins us via Zoom. Prof, thanks for being with us tonight. All right. Well, a moment ago he was here with us as we tested the line.
It's a pleasure, Cyril.
Right. There you go.
It's a pleasure to be here, Cyril.
Good. Thank you for being with us. Right. Well, tonight it's all about 1 year of the Tinubu administration. We started this conversation some weeks ago, and we've been looking at so many aspects of it: infrastructure, job creation, and progress in general. At some point in time, this program will be interactive. It means you can join in the conversation. But when it is that time, we'll remind you of the process and the procedure. So welcome once again to NTA Tuesday Live. Let's begin the conversation. And we're looking at all these aspects and more. And let's start with the Executive Vice Chairman of NASENI. And say, from your own viewpoint, what's been achieved in this 1 year of the Tinubu administration? If we look at industrialization and particularly in terms of indigenous industrialization and infrastructure.
Well, thank you for having me tonight. I think the key thing before going into details, of efforts that have been made by the administration, with regards to renewing people's hope, is the fact that we're coming back to reality. What I mean by coming back to reality is, with the issue of subsidy, we've been really living a fake life as Nigerians, patching up the economy over and over and over again. And this damage keeps piling up, over the years. But for the first time, we're living our realities, trying to allow economic market forces, to play their own role. Now going back into efforts that have been made, speaking from the angle of the National Agency for Science and Engineering Infrastructure, the first thing was to improve internal governance. We have a lot of things in plan, from the Renew Hope agenda, but to be able to achieve it, you have to have well-motivated staff. So one of the early things, we did when I took over is to be able to reconstitute the entire internal system and have a motivating staffs by means of welfare and other, basic things that were ignored in the past. So we constituted a team comprising of mid-level staff to put up recommendation that, okay, this is what we want to achieve, but what are you asking, on your end to be able to be motivated to be able to achieve these things. And within a very short period of time, less than a month, about 90% of the recommendations made, were cleared, all areas and things like that. And the working condition was also improved, for us to be able, to achieve that. And that has, propelled us forward, to be able to do a lot of activities. NTA has been a witness. I think every other week we're here in the studio, and you've been coming to the several programs that we've launched, including the CNG the largest CNG conversion center in the country that was launched last Friday by Mr. President. So a lot of activities have come into play, but I'll give you more details as we go.
All right, thanks so much. We'll return to so many of those things you've mentioned, but let's come to the MD of the Rural Electrification Agency. That, of course, is self-explanatory. We need not even begin to ask questions about how important, how key this is to, the growth of the country. But tell us, in this 1 year, what progress has been made?
Thank you very much, Cyril. Just for a context as well, you need to understand what are the issues being faced within the Rural Electrification Agency in the country. For example, Nigeria has the highest number of unelectrified people. About 85 million Nigerians are without electricity access. And this is largely as a result of key factors. One, for example, the population growth and the electrification are not going hand in hand. For example, the population, the electricity rate access, it's going at a rate of 1.1%, while the population growth is at about 30%, right? And so why there are no bridging the electricity access is a result of also of a number of factors. One is the fact that there is no investment in that area. Many individuals are not providing private sector investment to electrify the country. And also the government alone cannot electrify the entire country, right? Beyond that also, most of the rural areas are sparsely populated. So it is very expensive to move the national grid from where it is to these areas. The consumption is very low and they are sparsely populated. So economically, it's not efficient to move the grid to these areas. So what the federal government is doing, it's now to create this distributed access where the generation distribution can be done within these rural areas, within these rural communities, thereby saving a lot of cost and also provide them with efficient service. Now, coming back to what this government has done, I think the first thing that is happening, which many people are not aware of, is the biggest thing that is happening even in the entire world as regards to rural electrification, which is providing a seed funding that will catalyze investment in this area. The biggest off-grid funded project in the entire world was signed by this present government, a $750 million funding being provided by the World Bank, signed by this government. And what will interest you, Cyril, is the fact that this $750 million investment by the federal government will catalyze 1.1 billion private sector investment. So we are talking about additional funding of about $1.850 billion being funded, channeled into this off-grid sector. And also, one of the key things that we are doing is whatever we are saying, we are targeting it with numbers. So this funding, what will it do? If you look at the documentary that was just played before this intervention, you will see that most of the things the federal government is doing are daring, are big projects to address the challenges, right? So we are also faced that these 85 billion Nigerians that are without access, let's face them squarely and address the issue. So this funding is to address a total of 23% of this unelectrified people in the first instance. And we want to provide them this total with 15 million Nigerians with solar home system, 30 million Nigerians with isolated mini grids, 1.5 million Nigerians with interconnected mini grids, and about over 150 Nigerian farmers will also be provided with solar pump irrigation pumps. So these are clear targets that we put. So this is one of the achievements that this government has recorded, injecting private sector investment and also public sector investment to catalyze private sector drive and investment to address the electricity access. So this is one bit of it.
All right. We'll also take a greater look in detail as we go on. But let's go to the Professor of Sociology and Population Studies. Prof, 1 year of the Tinubu administration, what can we say? What can you tell us?
Well, we can say quite a lot, and the gentleman with you have provided suitable statistics to set the ball rolling. But on the whole, the dialectics of Nigeria is more like a tale of two cities, a tale of two countries. On the one hand, you have the state, effectively represented by the government, and then on the other, you have the people at the community level. So while you do have macro level statistics that show a whole lot of ambitious thinking and planning, which is the way it should be at a macro level. But when you deal with things like rising cost of healthcare and hunger, those are very personal issues. There needs to also be granular thinking. We need to be pro-people and pro-poor, not only progressive. The steps being taken by the administration in the preceding 1 year are laudable. Virtually every technocrat agrees, for example, that the subsidy that we were living with was not sustainable, it was illusory. So it was quite courageous to have a president who would tackle that head on, and not subterraneously. He told Nigerians from the very beginning that this was what he was going to do. But I think one of the things that we as a people and as a government could have done, not just because of that, but in spite of the removal of subsidies, to recognize that people do live, for example, with pre-existing health conditions. I personally have a mother for whom I used to buy Seretide. That's an antihypertensive medication which we used to buy for 16,000 naira a year ago. It's now 85,000 naira. And at the granular level, I wonder how many Nigerians out there on the minimum wage will be able to face up to the demands of living in Nigeria today. So it's a tale of two countries. We need to be more granular. I think that the area of youth unemployment still requires more attention. I think the government has done quite a bit with regards to the educational sector. I mean, you had the intelligentsia left denied of 8 months' salary until this administration came on board, although it hasn't effectively cleared that backlog. But it needs to be remembered that it inherited it. It wasn't the cause of it. So two things I'll say, Cyril, is that, first of all, at a very fundamental analytical level, this practice of assessing governments after every 100 years, after every 100 days, and after 365 days, for example, we need to formalize the indicators, such as the kind of indicators you are using on this program. We need to standardize those kinds of indicators so that we know that when it comes to maternal health, for example, maternal mortality statistics, human development index, when we come to the misery index, we'll be able to see how the government is doing on those indicators, standardized across the sectors, across the MDAs, from 1 year into the next. What we've been doing so far is quite arbitrary. It's well-intentioned, no doubt, but it's at the same time very arbitrary. You cannot aggregate it across the preceding quinquennium, by which I mean the preceding 5 years or the preceding decade, in order to situate where we are against the background of where we're coming from and where we're going. So those are the preliminary comments I have on this. I think that the current administration inherited what you could describe as audience tables. And if there is thing coming from the cleaning up of these audience tables, well, that's the way it is. It's not necessarily what the complaints. I mean, we have the labor just calling up for suspending a strike now, which means that at some level there's discontent, there's dissatisfaction among the people. It's just that the Nigerian people themselves are quite resilient and extraordinarily understanding, which is why it's not more than what it is. But I'm sure that moving forward, an empathetic, sympathetic government like what we have is likely to listen and realize that while he's doing a lot at the macro level of big thinking, he should remember that when it comes to matters like health and hunger, unemployment, these are personal, and so there needs to be more granular thinking at the same time.
Okay. Right, thank you very much. Your initial comments. I will just take a bit of that into the next area which we'll talk about, which is again infrastructure, to deal with and how this can improve the situation which we've just painted here about unemployment. It's largely what is crippling this huge army of youth that we have. And from your perspective, the infrastructure development, indigenizing fabrications, and how this can reflect on creating jobs for teeming youth population.
Well, you see, I'm glad we have REA here, and together we worked on a project around unlocking energy and natural resources. We were at the COPs in Dubai last year, where we collectively were able to raise $150 million for investment in lithium batteries in the country. And this is just a model that we've tested, where we want government to take front seat with regards to industrialization and manufacturing. You are aware that we've recently launched our national brand. We have about 35 market-ready produce. What we've been able to successfully do is to move Naseni from a pure research agency to a development where we can see products. And once you start to see products, it means you are stimulating the economy. It means you are creating more middle class. And every successful economy, the key pillars around it is the ability to be able to grow the middle class, where they can afford way above the minimum wage, and also stimulate the economy by way of spending and the likes. And once you create jobs, the impact is significant with regards to security, with regards to livelihood. So one of the key things we're tackling is, to go back to basis. How do we reduce capital flight, by producing locally? How do we encourage people to add value on things before they export them? And most importantly, the things that government consumes, how do we produce them locally rather than allowing our country to be, a dumping ground? So we've been looking at all the things. MDRA here spoke about mini grid. We're in partnership with them to provide this. We have solar factories coming up. In fact, we have a renewable industrial park, coming up. With regards to the solar home systems, today you can, walk into Naseni and acquire, one of those, solar home systems. So consistently, we begin to see first, what are the things that government are consuming, and how do they leverage on Naseni brand to be able to produce them locally?
Now Naseni is into production, and not just a research-based institute. But again, there's an aspect I'm quite interested in, apart from the solar systems which you talked about. A lot of the equipment, especially in science, you import. With this administration, and do we see signs of moving away from an import-dependent, equipment that we almost 100% rely on? I think it was quite recently we're trying to insist that even syringes should be produced locally and not have to import those things. Test tubes or stuff that are used in schools and colleges. How programmed is Nasini in bringing about a reversal of these?
Well, there's a program we launched called the Accelerated Technology Transfer, where we have been shopping first with the players that have been dumping goods in Nigeria and how to encourage them to domesticate them and produce them locally while providing, the right incentives. We've been traveling all over, the world. Since I assumed office, we've been to at least 12 countries, speaking to those players directly and encouraging them, to invest locally, from health, to electronics and the likes. And, you are right, some of these things can be fabricated and we have the skills and talents. So why should we allow, those things to be dumped here locally? And you see, with our accelerated technology transfer, we try to identify the whole value chain. From inception of ideas and how to refine them and the way to bring them to market, whether partnering with our development institute, which we have 10 of them, or partnering with other stakeholders. But you need to be able to do proper stakeholder mapping to understand what kind of incentive do you need to give that person that is dumping those items on ground to produce them locally. We also have to take account that some of our local players are the ones enabling this, because a lot of them, it's much easier for them just to go out and ship these items. They are the agents, than trying to produce them. So how can we unlock that, and how can we ensure that? But you see, we start leveraging on areas where we have, strength, where we can bargain well. For example, if you're talking about G2G relationship, our partnership with REA, our partnership with the military, when you're talking about defense armaments, the Irrigate Nigeria project, we insist, that there has to be some certain level of local component, because that gives us our, a bargaining power. Well, so it's a carrot and stick approach. Here is our bargaining power with regards to what we consume, especially as government. But if you are able to produce them, we are also going to encourage you. And we've seen that happen very fruitfully with the launch of the national brand, because everyone, in every part of the world, people want to align with the government brand, because there's a sense of security. And especially with Naseni, where the president is the chairman, of the board, you have 11 ministers on the board. I don't think there is better comfort than telling you, come on, partner with Mr. President's quote-unquote company, to be able to invest in a country like Nigeria. Okay.
I'll return to you. But for the MD REA, you've talked about this 85 million who remain without electricity in the rural areas. Now, again, within this administration, we have seen so many issues with regard to electricity supply, distribution, and all that, and even the question of tariffs. How do you respond to the thought that as it is with the national grid, so it will eventually be with rural electrification?
Thank you very much. No, I don't think there are two different scenarios. One, if you look at the off-grid, this is where investment is coming, and it's also because we have demonstrated that the market is viable. We have also demonstrated that mini-grid is an infrastructure. That is why investment is coming. And I give you figures. For example, I told you that this government signed the World Bank $750 million funding, which has catalyzed 1.1 billion private sector funding. This shows that the investors, people who are putting their money, have tested the market and have known that the market is viable. Beyond that, for example, there are a number of commitments. 2 Nigerian local banks have committed over 60 billion naira into the sector. And this is funding provided for the developers who are building this mini grid to go and access. Once they sign a grant agreement with the Rural Electrification Agency, they will now have access to this funding with this bank. It's back-to-back agreement. Our grant agreement mirrors the financing agreement of this bank. That is one. Even from the international perspective, the International Finance Corporation have committed $100 million for this particular sector. And this is also funding for the developers, project development, equipment financing, debt financing, even equity financing. So this is another area that is that you should look at it. But also we are very mindful of the fact that as the sector matures, we don't want a repeat of what happens on grid to happens off grid as well. So what are we doing? So the Minister of Power directed REA that going forward, we have to scale up whatever we are doing. So we want to now, he directed us that we should stop counting our achievement by the number of mini grids that we deployed. Initially, before now, I would tell you that, oh, we have built over 150 mini grids. But now he wants us to start counting how many megawatts we built, right? How many megawatts green new energy that we put into the grid. That is one. Two, we also want these developers that we are working with who have emerged from nowhere, who have tested the market, to also start seeing themselves as a viable, sustainable business entities. So if, for example, it's a company built around the founder, let that developer create a corporate governance to be able to attract this financing that we are unlocking, even international financing, so that they can be much more sustainable. That is secondly. Third, we also created big, large ticket projects, which only companies, developers that have also built their internal system that can bid for this project. So we want to do what we call minimum subsidy tender, whereby we can auction like 20 megawatts of capacity and for the developers to bid. If the companies did not build their own internal system, they can't bid for such kind of capacity. Then lastly also, in collaboration with the World Bank and another NSIA partnered company called Infra Credit, we created funding that is available for these local companies for them to access this funding to build their internal system. So this is not a project-based financing. This is a financing to build their systems, structures, corporate governance, even their financial system, so that they can really be that sustainable company and be able to access this financing. So in a nutshell, we are conscious of what has happened on the on-grid, and that is why we are putting measures to make sure that the off-grid is not like the on-grid. And also to show you as an indicator, if you look at the on-grid, apart from the Azura investment that the first independent power company, Greenfield, that came on grid, I don't think there's any investment that is as much as what we have brought, the $1.850 billion that has this present government has crystallized. So this is all what we are doing to make sure that the off-grid is also resilient, so that we don't repeat what has happened.
All right, thank you so much. Well, at this point, let's remind you of some of the views across the country. Let's get some of them from this report coming in from Kaduna.
Upon assumption in office, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu rolled out policies to put Nigeria's economy on the path of growth, one of which is ending the fuel subsidy regime. While striving to reduce the impact of the high cost of living on the citizens, the president focused on removing impediments to productivity and competitiveness for the sector to grow and create millions of decent jobs essential for long-term economic growth.
The impact on the economy is enormous because it's felt virtually by everybody. What is going to come in terms of oil and gas or the blue economy or some other sectors will come up gradually, because but the one of that as it affects the economy directly are being felt virtually by everybody.
The issue of Students' Loans Board is a very laudable initiative. Also, if you look at the area of the fracas between ASU and the federal government, President Bola Tinubu, in his wisdom, has removed the university system from the IPPIS.
The president's unwavering commitment to better the lives of Nigerians led to the establishment of Infrastructure Support Fund for state to invest in critical areas that will create an enabling environment for businesses to thrive.
Our refinery here in Kaduna is over 90% completion, is a testimony that we are on the right path.
Stakeholders are of the view that many policies of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu no doubt has direct impact on the economy of Kaduna State.
He has given a marching order to rehabilitate the Western Bypass in Kaduna State.
I have received a number of books which have been distributed in our schools. These books, they are meant to complement the efforts of the state government in provision of instructional materials and learning materials in our schools.
The consensus among key players is that the reforms of President Tinubu are laying the foundation for a brighter future for Nigerians. In Kaduna, I am Muhammad Marajingi.
And this other one is from Port Harcourt.
The first year of President Bola Tinubu's administration offers opportunity for critical stakeholders to appraise the performance of the administration's 8-point agenda, with emphasis on food security, job creation, access to capital, poverty eradication, growth, rule of law, fighting corruption, and inclusion. Though the period has been tough and defining to some, a number of decisions, policies, and projects have potential for growth.
It has been a period of taking tough decisions just to make sure that we stop the bleeding. Nigeria was bleeding. So the moment we turn the curves, cost of living will come back to normal. Nigerians will begin to see progress. We are going to benefit from the coastal road that is running from Lagos to Calabar. It will cut across our area of operation.
Action right there on the platform was the removal of the fuel subsidy. It was a decision that he needed to take to even make fuel available, to ensure security, to ensure the stability in our economy.
The rising cost of food items and cases of illegal oil bunkering to others is an indication that the government needs to do more in the areas of security and investment in food production.
Even though the government has announced a lot of housing projects and even gone ahead to inaugurate them, but oil and gas, the pilfering and bunkering and stealing of our oil resources by unknown third parties has not been curbed. So, and that is where the country ends the more and the only taproot of our foreign exchange.
Here in Rivers State, proponents for good governance commend President Tinubu's non-partisan disposition to the internal political wrangling, urging the regime to ensure that the rule of law prevails in the resolution. On the economic front line, the move to revamp ports in Rivers State, thereby making them more competitive, observers said is laudable.
In this part, we have all that it takes, but it has not been utilized to the full blast. The ocean, the first port in this country, was built here in 1942.
Maximizing opportunities in ports within the state, exploring more on deep-sea fishing via trawling, analysts believe would help to create more job opportunities for residents. In Port Harcourt, Kingsley Amajiri.
All right, those reports brought to us the views, earlier views of Nigerians from Kaduna and Port Harcourt. But let's go back to Professor Oka Obono, who's with us via Zoom from Ibadan. Prof, I'd like us to go back a little bit. The very concept of a renewed hope suggests that at some point hope had been dashed. So in the past 1 year, what are the indicators as to say that a people who had before now, who were already beginning to lose hope in their leaders providing the kind of leadership that they require of them, what are the indicators to say that things are beginning to look up to the extent that the population can again begin to have that spark of hope, given the scenario which you had painted in your earlier comments about how things had turned out as a result of some of the, as you said, necessary steps that the administration had taken?
Yes, you've clearly interpreted the situation accurately. You wouldn't need to renew a thing if there wasn't something wrong with it. If you went back to the Abiola days, actually, Abiola ran on the mantra of hope. It was a creed of hope, a sacrament that was desacralized later. It doesn't take too much to say that the Nigerian people are very, very good people. They are very resilient in their character and endlessly optimistic. Sometimes their capacity for imaginative humor may actually be their antidote to extinction, but at the same time, it may be the reason why change is not more rapid than it should be, because they can take it in. Next to the hope is this incurable cynicism in the Nigerian temperament, a sarcasm that is now so lateralized that people don't actually expect to see anything different. This isn't sheer pessimism. This is the result of a long history of engagement with rapacious leaders, okay, who have never been known to place the interests and the yearnings of the good Nigerian people above their own interess. And the problem we now have in the civil populace is that even when a well-intentioned action is taken by a well-intentioned government, you have to be patient with Nigerians. It's going to take them some time to believe again. If you used matrimonial travesty and adultery, and you want to trust and believe again, it's not immediate. That's where the Nigerians are. They have been a disenfranchised people. They have been people who, until recently, did not even trust the electoral process. They see conspicuous consumption on the part of their leaders. And they all claim from time to time that they all go to the same market anyway. There is no one cost for a bag of rice for those who earn a certain income and a different cost for the same bag of rice for those who earn something different. Everybody is thrown to the same market forces. I think President Tinubu has an uphill task. I think he's capable of taking us on this journey. But I would have to appeal that even the poor in Nigeria are deserving of respect and dignity. They have not just come up with this hopelessness and cynicism from nowhere. People taught them to be that way. If you went to their farms, where the agricultural practice is not mechanized, come rain, come shine, these people still go there, eke out a living. This shows that in the Nigerian spirit is incurable hope to start with for the future. There is a young lady who made the nation proud from my state, Cross River, who finished youth service. This was viral on social media, and she actually marched up to her father and took off her jacket and placed it on him took off her cap, placed it on, claiming that this man had forgone building a house for himself in order to send this girl to school. He was that poor. This is in Cross River State. Then the governor of Akwa Ibom State now resolves to cross over to Cross River to go and build a house for this same man. This kind of stories exemplify who Nigerians are. There's incorrigible, you can't stop that hope. Our leaders before now killed that hope. They killed it. Nigerians have found a way to keep it alive. And for President Tinubu to still come and speak of renewed hope, I think they'll believe him. When I ran for Senate in 2019, the student loan scheme was one of the things I had hoped to introduce. So you can imagine how happy I am personally. It's very gratifying to see that. That means the children, the offspring of the widow, her 5 daughters can go to the university under this kind of program. That's a people, progressive, proactive program. So if that is sustained, there have been a few missteps. I think the issue of the SUVs was not properly managed. I think it was mistimed. These are the sorts of things, if they are repeated time and time again, cause people to doubt in place of hoping. Okay? So on the whole, as a scorecard, if you don't want to look at what is called in physics, or what is called in geography, if you just wanted to look at the broad scorecard, I think after 365 years, there's a platform for hope. I would think that moving along these directions, curing the immediate hunger, curing the restiveness, dealing with matters of health. Somebody talked about the hemorrhaging of our medical personnel. Who can deny this? And then my brother is talking about electrification. I'm really happy to hear the things he's saying. Those kind of things give hope, yes. But there are immediate steps we can do with our educational system, sir. The way the educational system is programmed is guaranteed to deliver hopelessness upon graduation. You will graduate unemployed. So what do? We need to insert mechanisms for employment into, for instance, engineering. I know my students, sir. If you give them an ordinary term paper to go and design integrated solar panels where you don't need separate batteries and inverters, it's integrated, at least in the University of Ibadan, they'll do it for you. But these are your children too. Now, you know how brainy they can be. So what we need is to motivate and incentivize the systems. This hope is not supposed to be, some flighty thing. It is supposed to be something that is generated from daily practice, institutionalized, so that people can project into the future and say, if this kind of tendency is strong, then we'll be all right. Why should we import anything like solar panels, as elementary as solar panels from we should be exporting them. The engineering students can do it so that they graduate not into unemployment, but into the managerial cadre of the labor market. That is how to cure unemployment. You must cure it at source, from training. We have the capacity to do this, but do we have the vision? Do we have the political will? Because we must first sacrifice vested interest. If that vested interest remains and the cabal that is invested in it is there, and we can't confront them, but with the boldness with which subsidy was removed, if we can confront this kind of issues, and I see, that's why for me, I'm hopeful anyway. I am. I am. I think if we continue this way, like the gentlemen are managing their sectors, if everybody is doing that and thinking of the people, the good Nigerian people all the time, and wondering how this is affecting them, not just in the future, but now,
Okay. You've struck on a point which would even expand further with the Executive Vice Chairman of Naseni. Speaking about solar panels, you did talk about the partnerships that you've gone into. And like Prof said, why should Nigeria import solar panels, of all things? And some say, isn't it coming so late in the day? But again, let's see what is poised to happen in terms of renewing the hopes of Nigerians. That with all the abundant sunshine that we have, and solar has not played a key role in driving energy requirements. And Naseni, how positioned are they in the forefront of this at this time, especially with the collaboration you have with the REA?
Well, I mean, efforts have been made. Probably the story has not been told enough. We have Naseni Solar Limited, which is constantly stretched with regards to number of orders, you know. Located here in Karshi, just at the outskirts of
Amazing.
Abuja.
I'm sure not many people know about that.
Well, and recently we've signed multiple agreements to expand that. But I'm glad Prof spoke about the issue of you know, building talents, you know, from the grassroots, and that is something we've taken really serious to even understand the whole journey from innovation, you know, to market, and begin to see how we can support at different levels. And I'll give you an example. There's something we recently developed called the Hatchbox. And the Hatchbox is basically a mobile lab, you know, that is completely off-grid, you know, which is, again, similar to what we're doing with REA. And it comes in a 40-foot container. And our intention is to be able to drop those boxes in schools so that we begin to start tapping talents and they can begin to experiment, you know. And I remember the first time I spoke to Mr. President about this idea, he asked me, are you able to get enough shipping containers? He was so excited, you know, about that. But that is the first step. How do we start tapping talents and provide them with the basic requirements to even be able to fine-tune their prototypes, okay? And then we come to the next level where we have the Innovation Hub right at the center of our headquarters in Naseni. And the Innovation Hub, you know, a lot of things have changed. The way we take products to the market generally in the world has changed. It's good to be a scientist. You can build prototypes, but taking it to the market and scaling it is a different ball game entirely. You need some sort of accounting skills, you need some business acumen and the likes, and you need to also engage with different stakeholders, you know, from financial institutions to marketing agencies. So our Innovation Hub is the melting point, you know, for everybody to come and meet. Oftentimes you hear that there's an innovation in one corner, in Enugu, in there, but what happens after that? You know, they ask for support. If you give them support, is there anyone to follow up? Do they have mentors? Are they able to take these products to the market? So that is the whole idea of having that Innovation Hub. And then once you fine-tune your ideas, you have a proper working prototype. We have institutes, we also have players. How can you take them to one of those places and scale them and produce them en masse, you know? So the whole journey from ideation to prototype to scaling, you know, that is what we're all about in Naseni. And how do we support Nigerians at different levels to be able to build that local, you know, talent. And also showcasing our local talents to international players. We understand that Nigeria is a tough terrain, you know, when you are domesticating products. But how do we groom and set out these young, you know, people so that they are market ready and they are ready to have that handshake, you know, with international players, because they also don't want to do it all alone. That's the whole essence of globalization. You know, you scratch my back, I scratch my back. But then the basics of it, you know, needs to be addressed, and that is what we are trying to do in Naseni.
All right. Well, at this point in time, we'll take a short break. When we return, the phone lines will open, and then it means you can join in the conversation in the studio. But stay with us on NTA Tuesday Live. We'll be back shortly with more on 1 year of the Tinubu administration.
The counsel of our fathers.
I will urge and advise our younger generation to use talent and brain to sort out problems, not arms.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days. You probably do not know what it is.
I believe we have fought one civil war too many in this country. So those who experience it will run away from it.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
NTA Tuesday Live, a network issue-oriented innovation talk show.
Thanks for staying with us. This is when we open the phone lines and then you can join in the conversation. And we say this every Tuesday. If you're calling in tonight and your call gets through to the studio, do us a favor, turn down the volume of your TV set. That's the way to avoid the hurlback or the echo. And we also encourage you to go straight to the point, ask a question or make a comment, but keep it short and simple so others can also get on the platform and air their views. And we also say this all the time, if you're calling in, don't bother too much about the greetings. Just a simple hello would do. So the numbers to call will be on your screens shortly. We expect that you'll join in the conversation. But back here in the studio, let's return to Abba Aliyu, the MD of the Rural Electrification Agency. And all we've been talking about how the government and its agencies can reposition the country along the path of growth and development, and particularly the place of rural electrification in all of this. And he was going to expand on that just a moment.
Yeah, thank you, Cyril Stroba. The Prof also spoke about the education, and I just needed to also inform the Nigerian public what the Rural Electrification Agency is doing under this present leadership in terms of enhancing the quality of education. One of the famous pictures that I normally reflect on is the picture where you see student of university under the street lights on the street reading in the night. It may also interest you to know that the present government is about to start commissioning projects in our tertiary institution, 7 institutions and 2 teaching hospitals, a total of 35 new capacity megawatts being added. So this is one of the interventions that this present government is doing to enhance the quality of learning. In phase 2 of this project, which we're about to start, a total, like I said, 35 megawatts. One of the biggest projects ever in the country is at the University of Maiduguri, 12 megawatts that it's powering the entire university, the teaching hospital, and also potentially to provide electricity to the only water treatment plant in the Maiduguri metropolitan. So like I said, 7 universities, 2 teaching hospitals. And in terms of also, so this is for us to create the quality of learning within the university. And in terms of training, just like what the Prof said, in all these universities that we are intervening, building this solar hybrid mini grid, we also are building world-class training center, renewable world-class training center, where this university student will have a place to learn practical experience in renewable energy. So as we are also creating quality of service within this university, we are also at the same time building talent pipeline. So what the professor mentioned in terms of having practical experience, this is what we are doing. And also it may interest you to know that as we are building this solar mini grids at these universities, we have selected 50 STEM students, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, female, for inclusivity, to be part of the building from soil testing
female
to the
students.
Female student.
This is deliberate.
This is deliberate.
Okay. Right.
In fact, one of the female students that benefited from the project, our project, she's now a special advisor or special assistant to an executive governor, current executive governor in this country. She underwent this STEM exercise. So this is to show you the practicality of what we are doing at these universities.
Interesting you talked about this because you just mentioned University of Maiduguri, and as well you said teaching hospitals, because I do know that quite recently the CMD of the University of Maiduguri Teaching Hospital spoke openly about the power challenges that that health institution was facing, and that with current tariffs, the teaching hospital was going to face, an uphill task in carrying out in providing the health services and care that it's meant to do. So you're saying that University of Maiduguri Teaching Hospital would be a beneficiary of this, one of these hubs that you talked about.
Exactly. The 7 universities, apart from Maiduguri, even University of Calabar with the teaching hospital is benefiting from this. And all these projects are about to be completed. We expect the Minister of Power to start commissioning this project anytime soon. University of Maiduguri, Calabar, Federal University Yobe, there is also the University Umudike in Abia. There's another one in Akure, University of Agriculture. So total of 7 of them. And what's also amazing with this present government is, as we are about to commission this project, 7 universities and 2 teaching hospitals, already groundbreaking has also been done for another set of 8 universities and 1 teaching hospital. University of Port Harcourt, Federal University Dusema, another one in Yola, the Federal University of Technology in Yola, Uyo, Akure, Lokoja, Nasarawa, all these are Uyo, they are about also being start. So as we are commissioning this by the end of the year and first quarter of next year, we will now start commissioning another round. In total, in our intervention, we have impacted over 350,000 students will benefit from this intervention that we are doing. And in all this university, apart from providing them with this solar hybrid mini grid that will provide them with reliable electricity and condition of learning at the university, there's the world-class training center. And we also install a total of over 220 kilometer kind of solar street light to enhance security at these universities. So this is part of what we are doing in this particular this. And this is just education. We are also intervening in health, agriculture.
All right. Yeah. We have a first caller on the line now, calling in from Anambra State, Kwazo.
Okay, right.
Right. Hello, are you there?
Yeah, speaking with Comrade Kwazo Chigos Banguru.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm there.
Right, go ahead, please.
Kwazo from Anambra, right.
Yes, go ahead.
Please, I want to plead on the federal government to help our students in activating all this state and federal industry. Like in Anambra, I was brought up in Kanu. I was born and brought up in Kanu. And I've been to Yobe. I've been to Maiduguri. I've been to many parts of Kanu. When you come to Kanu now, you go to Sharada area, you will find a lot of industries, mighty industries not functioning. Okay? Then you go to Yobe State. From Kanu to Yobe, you will see many old industries that have been established. in the early 70s and in the late 70s, they are not working. And those structures are still there. The machines are there. Why? I'm pleading on the government, on the current government, to help our students, our young students, take them there for practical.
All right, Ode, I think we lost the connection there, but if I got you right, you'd want the students to at least have somewhere they can have hands-on training. Right, if I got your last point before the line went off. But again, that's what we would take over to Prof in Ibadan and say, well, you heard from the Abuja studio here what the MD of the Rural Electrification Agency had just said, and I want you to look at what our last caller just tried to put across before the line went off about how these comatose industries could serve as training grounds for students, and you started the talk about repositioning the education system.
The MD Rural Electrification Agency for the very heartwarming clarifications he made about the very important work that his agency is doing. I'd like to compliment what he has said before coming to the Anambra caller with a complimentary way of looking at performance in that sector, particularly with regards to rural electrification. As the MD knows, there's likely to be a population and housing census this year. It should have been last year. Now, there's a window of opportunity, MD, for you to cause the chairman of the National Population Commission to insert in the census schedule, since we are enumerating households anyway, consumption patterns at the household level. Because that's where also the pinch is felt. You need to digitalize that, because actually it's a digital census that the National Population Commission is planning. So the Electrification Agency should depend on it for data, digitalized data that can show you in real time where the blackouts are, where suboptimal consumption is taking place. You need to have a grid of sorts so that if you see, you can color code it. The way you are causing targeted intervention to take place, and I love the numerical values that you are assigning to your indicators. This is really grand and good. But we need again to take it to that household level of consumption, particularly in the rural area.
All right.
You need to be able to tell the president.
Okay, Prof, I'm sorry to just cut you short. Pardon me. We'll return to you in just a moment. We have a caller who's waiting on the line, Suleiman from Katsina. Hello, Suleiman. Go ahead.
Okay. Hello.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Good evening, all. It's really a very nice
good evening.
program we have been watching. Yeah. I would like to say that there's the need for the government to focus attention on the technical colleges. If you look at it now, initially in the early 80s, the technical colleges have produced most of the engineers we have in most of our industries. But today, we have our technical colleges almost not doing, not even doing up to 20% of what they were. If you look at the facilities there, if you look at the motivation, it's no longer there. And those are the students that we're supposed to have in the polytechnic. We are always targeting universities. Why also not encouraging students to go to polytechnics and also have the basic skills that will provide the needed support to fabrications and whatever for small technologies that we may likely develop for in the country. And that has been one of the problems that we have even in the educational sector. When you look at colleges of education, most of the students, in the 80s, we had schools like teachers' colleges. Now we don't have anything like teachers' colleges. Students that comes out from secondary school are admitted into college of education. And that's why we have problems. That when you go to primary school, you see a teacher that doesn't have the skills to teach because doesn't have what the basics, which should have been from the teachers' college. All of us were trained by teachers who had grade 2 certificates. Now you compare with the grade 2 certificate, and even with the degrees with some of the students I think that we graduate with. You understand? It's totally, you understand, we are so totally off the line. Now, it's not everybody that has to go to university. In fact, when you go to have a degree in engineering in the university, it means, you understand, let's say an electrical engineer. That means you are trained to design. The fabrication is to be done by those who finish from polytechnic. But how do we encourage to have functional, polytechnic, you understand, functional secondary schools, you understand? We really need to go back to the fundamentals. And if you now look at most of in recent times, this government has tried to cushion the impact of this subsidy removal. Now, giving out, you understand, a lot of money to the state government. Why not channeling it to say, okay, let's each state, you understand, have a solar farm to generate power, you understand, maybe for, let's say, to specified set of people, you understand, who are maybe producing maybe ice blocks or carpenters or welders, you understand? Now, why should I invest 8 billion to just cook food and give to people? You understand? No, I should invest 8 billion where I will have a return on it, and that will contribute to the GDP growth of the country.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Suleiman from Katsina. Thank you. Right. Prof, we'll just return to you to conclude.
Yes. And then, so with that, I believe we'll be able to know where we are at any point in time and how to respond. Then to the Anambra caller, the issue deals with the performance of the universities and the tertiary educational sector itself with regards to entrepreneurship. And I hate to admit that what we are experiencing in that sector is sometimes, an abstraction from reality rather than practical creation of things in an industrial or post-industrial economy that will actually touch lives. So when we talk about entrepreneurship in the university, sometimes it is simply, calculated to be some body of knowledge that you can transmit in a course and then examine people paper-like at the end of the semester. That's not how this should be. Entrepreneurship should be something, in my view, that in partnership with the private sector is mainstream across board, even from admission of students to appointment of lecturers to promotion of academic staff. In the papers they publish, there should be, in fact, there's something I'm developing called the Entrepreneurial Sensitivity Index, ESI, which is supposed to know how entrepreneurial is each university with regards to the various functions that it has. We haven't gotten there yet. The Ministry of Education, in conjunction with the Rural Identification Program and the laudable things I'm hearing this evening, can become the launch pad for repositioning the tertiary educational sector within a framework that is truly, practically entrepreneurial, not just the knowledge of what an entrepreneur does, but actually living through that system. The same way you took a child to farm and he farmed. He knew farming by farming. So they learn entrepreneurship by being entrepreneurial.
Okay. Right. Thank you, Prof. Another caller on the line. This is Sadiq from Mina. Is Sadiq still on the line? Sadiq.
Good evening.
Good evening. Sadiq from Mina. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. It's interesting that we are talking about. Okay. It's quite interesting that we are talking about achievements under rural electrification as it pertains to education. And when the DG roll out his achievements so far, as it connects to education, you will see that there is still a gap because we are addressing rural people. So I was expecting him to have said their secondary school, because they are, in those days, there are secondary schools that produce most of us that are talking now. And if you see those secondary schools now, they are in such a bad state, and electricity is one of the deficient area that they lack. So I was thinking that when you are talking about rural electrification, the focus is on rural health, is on rural, particularly technical school, rural boarding school, where all these things, because electricity has become very important, and where it connects to education directly. So if you are talking about teaching hospital, of course, it become elitist at this point. So actually, I will want to plead with you there that the focus is already defined, rural. It should be an interior places that has not sent electricity. It should be an interior places that the people there don't even have electricity to read at night, preparing for GC, preparing for all manners of education. So I think that is where, and when you want to go to health, you go to primary health care, make sure that all these things. So it's now come back to connect you with the major city, and the rural people now be a beneficiary of what exactly your mandate is. Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you, Sadiq. Right. Okay.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Sadiq. I think we did not have the opportunity to tell you what we are doing in the healthcare. The area is also doing a lot in that regard. For example, I can tell you that we have provided containerized mini-grid in about 260 healthcare centers. In fact, what I normally like to even said was when I went to one of the health institutions to hand over the mini-grid to the management of the health centers. What really gladdened my heart was to see how they repurpose that mini-grid from where we were, where it was powering, which was during the COVID time. It was powering the isolation center. But they were able to repurpose that mini-grid to now power the accident and emergency theater room and the incubation room in Port Harcourt. So these are real projects that we implemented in that health center. So we powered over 100 health institutions under our project called the Nigerian Electrification Project, then another 160 health centers also under a different project. So this is exactly what we are doing. And wherever we powered, we tend to also track to see whether there is impact of that mini-grid. And in all the areas, we have recorded an increase of over 89,000 outpatients in these areas. And we have testaments where the nurses are saying that, their lives are made much easier working with the mini-grids because it powers it 24/7. In some instances, they used to use even torchlight to perform maternity functions. But with the mini-grid, it helps them to strengthen that aspect. And I must also say that this is something that we and the NASENI, we continue to partner. The EVC mentioned the MOU that we signed. So one of the reasons that we signed that MOU is to crystallize the establishment of lithium battery assembly plant, which is taking place, which has already started in Lagos, and we will commission sometime next year. The Minister of Power promote this kind of partnership. And Naseni saw the market and the enormous work that is in front of Rural Electrification Agency. And they now said that, okay, let's help in crystallizing the manufacturing for the local content aspect of it. And that was why we signed this MOU. So these are part of the things that we are doing in the health center.
All right. Another caller on the line, this time from Kanu. Abubakar from Kanu. Abubakar from Kanu, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Yes, sir. Good evening.
Go on. Let's hear you.
Yeah. My question goes directly to the Rural Electrification, Director, Rural Electrification.
Yes, go ahead with the question.
Yeah. Based on the impact they are trying to, what they are doing on the education and health, why not try something similar on the agriculture?
Okay, you want to know how, what they're doing in agriculture and how they're impacting agriculture in the rural areas under the REA project.
Yeah, so we are also intervening in agriculture, and also this allowed also the EVC to talk about the partnership we are doing in terms of assembling of solar irrigation pumps. We are developing different models of intervention in agriculture. To date, we have over 600 kilowatt peak hour mini grid across agricultural hub that we have already deployed. We have also provided over 1,000 solar irrigation pumps to farmers. And we are currently building under a program that we called Africa Mini Grid Program. We are currently developing 20 mini grids with a total capacity of 1,100 and something kilowatts peak in different agricultural clusters. And what we are doing in agriculture is looking at the entire value chain. So if we, for example, provide irrigation pumps to a farmer, whereby that gives them the opportunity to farm throughout the year, that will translate to increase in his production. But we also notice that the farmers tend to also experience increase in the number of their goods that spoiled over a period of time. So we now integrate the entire value chain. We provide them with the solar irrigation pumps, provide with cooling system under a program that we call productive use of energy. We provide them with also electric vehicles to help them in transporting what they produce from their farms to market. So this is what we are doing. We are developing different models in that regard.
Okay. Just before the EVC of Nasini comes in on that, let's take this call quickly from Abdul Qadir, who's calling in from Yola.
Yes. Good evening. Good evening, Cyril.
Good evening. Go ahead.
I am Abdul Qadir from Yola. I particularly want to hear from the University Don. After understanding that in 2017, China as a country converted 600 universities into polytechnics. What will the University Don advise Nigeria in that regard?
All right. Thank you. He'll address that. But let's hear from the Nasini EVC with regard to impacting rural farmers under the electrification project.
Well, as usual, we like going to the root cause of things, and we also like, as the name implies, infrastructure. We like to build infrastructures that are sustainable, where people benefit and make business out of it. MD spoke about the irrigation equipment. Don't forget that there is the Irrigate Nigeria project, you know, where collectively with different partners and with the efforts of Nasini, has successfully built a locally assembled solar irrigation pump, you know, to be able to allow farmers to harvest multiple times during the year. Also, not forgetting the issue of storage, because once you have more outputs, then there will be need for more, storage capacity and the entire value chain, like MD earlier mentioned. And for each and every bit of this, we try to put in our efforts in developing locally made products to address these issues. Another thing we have to consider is the fact that security and population growth is shrinking our arable land. So every day we're having less and less and more land. What innovative ways are we looking at, in terms of how we can farm more on smaller piece of land? This is where our hydroponics project comes into play. It's been displayed currently in Lafia, in our Agricultural and Mechanical Development Institute. And we're taking it further to even look at things like city farming, to really go to the root cause of this and even encourage other people and seed these technologies to the average Nigerian, where they can grow vegetables at home and also embed themselves into these activities that we are doing, so that we have more food going around. Okay. But I would also like to seize this opportunity to talk about our Restore program, which is the National Asset Restoration Program. From our research, we have about 55,000 tractors in Nigeria that are dead, just lying fallow. Together with our partner, we are working with state governors and private sector on how we can put these tractors back into use. The question is, where are we buying more tractors when we have over 50,000 tractors, just lying fallow? There's the issue of carbon emission. These tractors are, just lying fallow, emitting. The issue of, currency exchange, how hard it is to find dollar, and how can we put this back into work so that we have more productivity? Yeah.
Okay, we have Lucky from Rivers calling in. Hello.
Hello, sir. Hello.
Yes, go ahead, Lucky.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Please, you have been listening to your words and your education about university and the. Please, in River State that you're talking about, we are not really getting much solar energy empowerment, especially when it comes to.
Oh dear, the connection isn't working well. Lucky, are you still there?
Hello?
Yes, go ahead. Now you're back online.
Okay, so very well. So about the solar energy, when you come to the part of the rural area in River State, most of this rural area, they have not gotten this very same solar energy that you're talking about. And when you talk about within the Asaiga zone, the Akoga and the Dega, we are suffering for real solar energy strength for light. So I want the government as well, please, to look into these rural areas, because there are so many.
Okay, the line has ceased again. But I believe that the MDRE has taken note of that and he's going to respond to that. Just before he does that, there was an earlier question by a caller for Prof. And he was talking about the conversion of universities to polytechnics, and they want you to comment on that.
Yes, Cyril, your caller was drawing attention to the well-publicized conversion of about 600 universities in China to polytechnics about 2017, something that is completely the reversal of the trend in Nigeria. For instance, in February 2022, the National Universities Commission of this country converted the Lagos State Polytechnic into a university. And across the country, in several states, you have that trend also becoming the norm, where, for instance, former polytechnics are actually being, as it was seen, upgraded to university status. What that tells us is that we have as yet not developed a viable indigenous educational philosophy, okay, which actually lets us know what role education truly plays at specific phases in national development, okay? The Chinese that your caller talks about, they have an established tendency to plan in centennial circles, which is to say over the course, their benchmarks are in 100-year cycles, okay? And then you compare that and contrast that with a Nigeria where we typically have things that just stretch into strategic plans covering a very short space of 5 years. The 600 universities, first of all, the 600 universities that were converted into polytechnics, it's not remarkable when you look at it demographically, considering the total size of China. If you express that as a fraction and compare that with Nigeria, you might find that they are not actually telling the same story. But be that as it may, it does show that we do not have a long-term visionary plan that tells us what to do at this particular phase in our national development, when we should be emphasizing science, we should be emphasizing technology, we should be emphasizing engineering and mathematics. The colonial universities were actually set up, okay, as grammarian institutions. The intention was to create people who could speak impeccable English, okay, to enable them replace the colonial masters in public service. And as far as I'm concerned, that job has been done. We have achieved that goal. We can speak all the English you want in this country, so better than they are speaking Britain. We now need to move.
Now it's time to move on, right? And go STEM. Okay. Okay. Right. Thank you, Prof. We'll return to you shortly, but we have a caller from Niger. Hello.
Hello?
Yes. Go ahead. Chike, I believe, from Niger.
My name is Chike.
Okay. Chike, go ahead.
My question goes to the Vice Chairman of NISAM, please. I have a question for him.
Okay. Go ahead.
Please, the Vice Chairman, he has been emphasizing on based on the rural area. Yes, he has been emphasizing based on the rural area. My question is, what is the hope of the urban areas? What is the hope of them seeing?
Chike, well, unfortunately, Chike was going to ask a question. He wanted the EVC of Nasini to answer. Well, but in the middle of it, the line went off. We could only try to piece together what I was trying to get through. But you've been talking about Nasini interventions, and especially in terms of engineering infrastructure. Perhaps Chike wants you to situate that in the urban centers and not just the rural areas.
Well, our CNG project is in the urban center. You know, we have a lot of electrification project, if I may put it that way. We're talking about locally made electric vehicles, electric keke napep. You know, those are all you know, urban projects. And even when you speak about you know, our solar home systems, they are sort of hybrid. You know, so our programs are not particularly targeted on rural or urban, but we find places where we make the most impact. You know. And also, how can we seed these technologies in the most efficient way, so that we don't just hold on to it, but also give it out to SMEs where they can replicate. So we have impact metrics, and where we see projects deemed fit, that is where we place them.
Okay. Back to an issue that was raised by Lucky, who called in from Rivers, had to do with, he says they haven't seen many projects in Rivers. Okay, just before the... Okay, let's take this call before you get to answer that. Shuaibu calling in from Jos. Hello, Shuaibu, go ahead. Hello, Shuaibu, are you there?
Hello, good night, Mr. Stephen, and your members in the studio. We all congratulate ourselves for the 1 year in office of Mr. President. Yes, I can hear you.
Shuaibu.
Hello.
Well, I don't think you still... Are you on the line, Shuaibu? Shuaibu calling from Jos.
Hello? Hello?
Is that Shuaibu from Jos?
Yes.
Right, go ahead with a question or comment.
My comment is on the 1 year anniversary of Mr. President. Yes. Yes, my comment is on the 1 year of Mr. President in office. And the 1 year is, can see hope, and the other way around, with, to say we are in a pain that we don't know when that hope will surely come to all Nigerians. Simply because Mr. President has a vision for the country, but the way
Hello, Shuaibu. Okay. All right, let's come back to you on, yes, the matter of rivers and rural electrification projects. Right?
Yeah. So as regards to that, what I would say here is that just give us the numbers of what we have done. We have built over 150 mini-grids that are working across the country. We have deployed over 1.5 million solar home systems. We have impacted over 7.8 million Nigerians. We have connected live connection of over 1.8 million houses across the country. And our projects, it's across the entire 36 states.
Okay.
Every single state you go, you would definitely find an REA project.
Okay, so he talked about
rivers.
Rivers,
exactly.
Particularly.
Yeah, so normally this is the question that we often get, why we don't have this. Nigerians need to understand that the challenge is big, it's enormous. So regardless of our intervention, you will still have areas that we are yet to intervene. And that is why, like I mentioned, Mr. President signed the new round of funding that will now crystallize. So we will move from counting 1.7 million, 1.8 million to about 20-something million. So this is now scaling up. So we will move from 150 mini-grids to about 1,300 mini-grids in the next 30 years. This is what we are doing. So definitely we'll reach out to Rivers very soon.
Right. Idris is calling in from Ogun State. Hello, Idris. Are you there? Idris from Ogun.
Yes, good evening. Yes, I'm still there. I commend the participants on this program. It's a very interesting program. Thank you very much. Most especially, I can't thank the Prof. I like how the Prof addressed at the beginning of the program. Yeah, on the 1 year anniversary of the Mr. President, let us be frank.
Yes, Idris.
Things are not fine at all. So please, we will appreciate Mr. President to do better, and we will appreciate him more. We know that he has a lot of programs, but the way implementation are doing or are going are not really, people are not really feeling the impact. So we will appreciate if anything could be done to do better. Then on the rural, the MD of the Rural Education Agency, or program, sorry, I want to appeal to him that most of the area he has covered, I've not had any area related to Southwest. So State, there's a lot of rural area in Ogun State. There's no light. We are not feeling the impact at all. We have a lot of health centers. If you visit most of these health centers, you will realize that there's a lot to be done. So they need a lot of support. So please, we want you to look at Ogun State and probably with some of the other southwest states. It's very important.
Okay,
so
thank
I
you.
think that's my contribution.
Right, thank you, Idris from Ogun. The MDRE would respond to.
Yeah, so he mentioned the Ogun State, and I'm happy to even tell Idris that the next project that the Minister of Power will commission under the Nigeria Electrification Project is situated in Ogun State, a 1 megawatt interconnected mini grid that will power over 6,000 households. So this is project that we are currently testing the project, a interconnected mini grid situated in Ogun State. So I hope maybe it covers his area. But like what I mentioned, it's that the challenge is enormous. Regardless of the intervention, we'll still find areas that we are yet to connect. But we are doing more in this regard. And like I mentioned, the new project is about to start in August, and definitely will cover all areas in Nigeria. This is a determination of the present government.
All right. Thank you so much. I'd just like to return quickly to the EVC of Naseni. And what is the state of the cities at this time? We had a caller from it. I actually thought he was going to raise a question on SEDI.
Well, there is something we are doing called institute repositioning. You know, it's not just SEDI, but it's all the institutes, in Naseni. They've been set up in a manner where they are doing mostly research and prototypes. You know, but now we've done we've done an asset review to see the capacities that this institute have, and you'll be shocked to see, with regards to some of the investments that have been made, in some of these institutes in terms of equipment, CNC machines, injection machines, blow machines, and the likes. And now, Mr. President is very more business-like, and this whole administration is more business-like. So how do we leverage on all these things that we have and this investment that have been made in the past and the ones that are coming into the future to just move the needle from just being research and development and prototype to actually doing production. So one of the things we are looking at, with SEDI and particularly the other institutes that are doing agricultural and mechanical development institute are things like valve, which is a key component with regards to irrigation. If you are talking about mechanized farming as well as the Irrigate Nigeria project. So we are pushing this institute, not to stop at prototype stages, but how can they do products that are commercially viable. So the entire framework from ideation to the way you even begin to do researches, in this institute, we have a framework where it has a commercial element. So we just don't want to send a scientist or an engineer into a lab funding his research without knowing what we should be expecting at the end of the result. We just don't want prototypes that is fancy, you get accolades at the end of the day, but nothing goes to the market. Because we believe the whole idea of research is so that a product will end up in the market that will have an economic impact to the country.
Okay, thank you. Well, Prof, we're getting into the last stages of this conversation, and some would say 1 year is nothing in the life of an administration, and others would say it is within this 1 year we can begin to see what the likely impact of an administration would be. From your assessment, again, we asked this question earlier on, are we seeing a reversal of the despondency which the population had almost descended into? And as we look up to another year of the program that's been tagged the Renewed Hope for Nigerians. What are those areas which you think we should now turn attention to?
Oh, thank you. First of all, one way of posing that question is to ask, if it were not the Tinubu administration, if it were some other administration that equally had credibility, that also had integrity, and they wanted to reverse the fortunes of Nigeria, like you have said, could they accomplish that without pain, without difficulty? The doldrums, the developmental doldrums that you described were so deep and despondent that it is hardly conceivable that anyone, however angelic, could hope to redeem Nigeria without the kind of brutal consequences that we are facing right now. If I have a critique of the administration, is that it's not communicating the process, it's concentrating on the outcome, the foreseeable outcome, which is clearer to itself because of groupthink. You have the Naseni EVC here, you have the MD of REA here. When such people get together, it becomes very easy for them to see a glamorous future and then to be energized by that and to work. But is this being communicated in the language that the rest of Nigerians who are not in this room, in those boardrooms, will understand that the pain is inevitable? But one mistake this administration should not make is to deny the absolute reality of the excruciating pain that Nigerians are currently passing through. To dismiss it is to insult the citizenry. People do die daily in this country of avoidable causes, sometimes because of trade-offs they make between feeding a family completely, sending another child to school, and watching a baby die. You need to also calm down a bit. Yeah? From this magnificent programming that we are seeing, we do show the way forward, yes. We have a grand failure, we have to have a grand success. And so these grand plans that we are seeing are inevitable. But at the most basic levels, there must be safety nets. Those who cannot afford to keep up with the pace of the stagflationary economy that we have right now. The prices of commodities have quadrupled, sometimes even more than that. But salaries have stayed stable. What do you expect the country to feel? So I think this process of correcting past errors, because we did have buccaneers as administrators before, okay? We had people who actually came to loot. Now you have an administration with fair gentlemen like yourselves, which you represent. You need to communicate this thing, the way you communicate it to your households, when you have to take difficult decisions to their understanding so that they say, okay, fine, we can move forward. I don't think that communication is coming out. And I don't think the example of some of our leaders is adding credibility to the messaging.
All right.
We all are in this together. Let's talk like Nigerians.
Okay.
You cannot be living fair and fine and flying all over the place and then asking the rest of the people to be tightening their belt. So when the president came out saying that he was placing some kind of embargo on ministerial travels that were not necessary, if you had monitored the media at that time, you would have seen that Nigerians breathed a sigh of relief.
All right. So thank you so very much, Professor Oka Obno, a professor of sociology and population studies of the University of Ibadan. Thank you so much for being with us on this program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. And let's come to Abba Aliyu, MD of the Rural Electrification Agency. Your closing comments as we round off.
I think for me, I'm very grateful to God for the opportunity to serve the country. The Honorable Minister appointed me, nominated me without even knowing who I am. And I don't take that for granted. I feel that this is an opportunity for me to serve the country. And that is why, if you look at it, all our projects, all the things that we are doing, we do it with factual numbers to make sure that we provide something that we can be held accountable for. And the minister has been very clear in terms of what we should do going forward. One, developing local content, and this is why we continue to partner with NASENI, partnering with the state based on the Electricity Act that was signed by the president, to make sure that we bring this kind of situation or opportunities with the state to address the gap. Also developing the National Electrification Plan that will clearly show where are these areas, just like what the prof say, where are these underserved area, where are the unserved area, and how REA is intervening to provide that. So this is the future for us, and to make sure that people hold us accountable.
All right, thank you so very much. And finally, for Khalil Halilu, Executive Vice Chairman, NASENI, let's hear you.
Well, first of all, I want to assure Nigerians that Mr. President has good intentions, and you know, the route that he has taken is not an easy one. We have been postponing problems over and over and over again, and you know, for the first time, we have a president that is brave, you know, to face these challenges head on. Definitely, like Prof said, there needs to be improvement in terms of communication. Because this is not something that these are years of damage. You know, it's not something that you can fix overnight. And you know, for us at NASENI, is to look at, you know, go back to basics. You know, we need a middle class. We need to create jobs. We need to reduce capital flight. You know, and all this can be achieved via industrialization, and that is where we're making efforts, and also putting our foot forward to bring up a national brand, you know, is a sign of, you know, our commitment, and also having an open door policy to collaborate, especially with the private sector and international community, to revive the industrialization of the country. Also trying to look at it from an optimized perspective. What those industries that died, what resulted, and how can we build on that? You know, not trying to build something completely new without looking at the basics or the causes you know, that resulted to the dead industries, you know, currently. And where we have assets that we can revive and put them back into use, how can we, you know, do that as opposed to buying new ones? So definitely, it's not going to be an easy ride, you know, but we're here to support Mr. President's agenda, and you can see there are a lot of, you know, people that are energetic. You know, you can see MD area that are committed to the project, and you can see the passion, you know, when, you know, these players speak. But again, we need to do better with communication, and we'll definitely arrive at that dreamland.
All right, so we'd like to thank you very much for coming on this program. Thank you so much. We hope we'll ask you to come again some other time and talk about how much progress has been made. Thank you. And that's our program today. We thank you for watching. We thank all those who called in, who were part of the program. Next week, we'll be back with NTA Tuesday Live. I'm Cyril Stover. Bye for now.